Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag from the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
Well, as we close in on the end of the fall sports season, and we really are because the football season's wrapping up, and we're 3 weeks away from the tip-off of the high school basketball season. I think some folks will have some scrimmages probably in a couple of weeks and maybe even less time than that. So we're going to start off today's show with Coach Blake Button, Caverna Colonels coach, bringing back basically his whole team that he had from last year. I think maybe there were a lot of growing pains for you guys last year because you really had a young team. I think you only had one senior last year to start out the season, and so you were relying on a bunch of young guys last year. So John Butler, who likes to say if you're going to lose young, I mean, I know you guys were competitive in a lot of games last year but didn't win a lot of games. So I guess you're looking at that as the positive. Is that right?
Yeah, we're definitely young, and I still think we really are. And we talked about it all last year, and we talked about it all summer that, we got everybody back. Last year we didn't get a summer to play. Mm-hmm. We didn't get any scrimmages to play. And then we had so many breaks on and off that, it really affected us pretty bad because we had kids that were quarantined different times, and we were so young and not as deep as we would like to have been, and it really affected us a lot last year. But we come back this summer and had a great summer. Played a lot of people. I think we've seen our top 10 teams in our region the other day, and we've played about half of them and either beat or competed with all of them. So we're pretty happy with the summer so far and what we've seen so far at practice too.
Yeah, because you mentioned that you still basically have a young team. You have no seniors on your team this year. You have a couple who would have been seniors, right, but they decided to take the COVID do-over year, so they're technically juniors again. I guess that's Cameron Buchanan and Mika Tier, I think is his name. I've said his last name now like that several times. One day I'm going to stop him and ask him if I've said it correctly or not. That way I want to make sure I have it right. But those two took the COVID do-over year, is that right?
They both took the Senate bill, and so we got both of them back for 2 more years.
Yeah, so, that's so they are listed on the rosters as juniors, but they're probably 2 of the more experienced players. And then you've got your older son. He's played quite a bit now. Tell me about some of the other players. Well, tell me about your son first, and then tell me about some of your other players there.
So we got Meek and Cam back, and they probably led us in rebounding and points. Both of them together did. And then Dax actually got to play some as an 8th grader, so he's got about a year and a half experience, so have him back. And then when I say we're young, because we're looking at some of our top guards being Tayden Loxton is a new kid for us. He's a freshman. Mm-hmm. Good chance he'll be starting point guard. Then we got Jalen Crane, which is an 8th grader, and Cade Button, which is an 8th grader. And they both played a lot of minutes last year and grew up a lot last year and this summer and have really worked. All of them have, actually. So I'm excited to see just the ones that I mentioned there. Yeah.
I think, sometimes when you have a younger team, especially in boys basketball, one of the problems is just teams being able to physically push you guys around and that kind of stuff. And that may have been one of the things you ran into last year. But I take it you guys have worked on strength and conditioning, getting bulked up so that you can handle that kind of pressure. So even though you're still young, that experience plus that, you hope, pans out for you?
Yeah, we definitely knew after watching that we were young and we were inexperienced and we were definitely weaker. You take 2 7th graders.
Yeah.
It's just hard for them to compete at the varsity level, and that goes for all of them. I don't think any of them were in the shape we needed to be in. So it's been probably one of the most gratifying off seasons I've ever had, watching all these younger guys and watching Meek and Cam and all these kids put in the time over the summer. Like, they've been working hard since the spring, all summer. And then this off season, other than Cam and them playing football, and you can see it. I don't know if I've ever seen a difference in individuals in a team like I have in this off season.
Yeah, now you guys open 3 weeks from today, right? November 29th at Fort Knox. What are some of the things in the preseason you guys are working on that and that make you feel good about how the season is going to go for you?
Just being more physical, probably being the main thing. And the young kids are stepping up and they're battling, and they're not happy with just coming off the bench. They want those spots, and that's creating a little bit of fight back from some of the older kids because you don't want to lose your spot to a younger kid like that. So the intensity in practice has been great. Love it. And we're adding all the middle school football players now. They got beat Saturday, so we're adding all them, which are the two twins too, and they're pretty good sized kids.
Is that Kenyon and Tyson Martin?
Yes, sir.
Everybody's told me about the twins here in Caverna's middle school since they were probably 4 years old.
Yeah, you just walk down the hall and it's the twins.
Yeah, so I guess there's a little anticipation on my part to see these guys. I know they'll still be eighth graders, and there's a lot to learn at varsity level, but I'm interested to see how that goes for them. I also noticed that just to kind of step sideways here, you have a Maxie on that's coming out of the eighth grade here. I don't know if he's a standout basketball player, but historically speaking, over at Caverna, whenever you see a kid with the last name Maxie, they usually pan out pretty well athletically for the Colonels. When you look at your season here, you guys start there with Fort Knox. What are you looking for in terms of the games on the schedule that you're like, all right, these are going to be games that we learn things about our team?
I mean, we've talked about competing in the district. That's the most important thing, and we know all those teams are going to bring it. And we got some good coaches in our district, so we know we got to come off the bat right off the Hart County in the second game and compete like we just talked about, physically and mentally, and because we had some problems with that last year when we played our district team. So definitely want to compete in the district. And we got the All-A. We're actually hosting the All-A and district this year.
Okay.
So we feel like that's a great opportunity for us to take advantage of that, and that's some of our goals right now. We want to win the district, and we want to win our All-A.
I also noticed you guys are doing a pre-Christmas tournament over at Clinton County, and then you're going to is that Williamsburg after Christmas to play. Do you guys find that when you go on those road Christmas tournaments and that kind of thing, that helps with team bonding and that kind of stuff?
I hope it does. That was the point of it.
Yeah.
Now we're probably going to drive to Clinton County every day, but we play 2 games one day out there, so it won't be bad. But we're definitely staying in Williamsburg, and it's kind of remote, and so they don't have nothing else to do but hang out with each other and play basketball. So hopefully that'll help with some team bonding.
Back to your district, how do you think the district shapes up this year?
Well, we've been talking about that, and we feel comfortable with us being in there. Obviously, LaRue County and Coach Childress always does a great job, and I know he's got some talented kids back, so I feel like that may be our biggest competition. But at the same time, Greene County's got a large group that I think held back as well that are pretty solid. So I think it's going to be a good competitive district this year.
Yeah, I guess that's coming into the basketball season. That's kind of one of the unknowns. I mean, even if you do know that some players did the do-over year, the unknown, I guess, is kind of how all that fits together for teams, especially when you look around the district and that kind of stuff. Is that the case, you think?
Well, yeah, because we were looking at last year as, hey, we're going to get everybody back. We're excited about that. We know it. And then they passed the Senate bill, and now everybody else got all theirs back too. So, but we've seen most of them play over the summer. We've seen Greene, so we know who they got back and didn't get back, and who stayed back. And we've heard different stuff about Hart, so we'll have to see what they have and don't have. And LaRue, of course, we know what they have.
Yeah. How excited do you think the players are to get the season started?
Oh, they're ready. They're already tired of practicing against each other, and so we'll get a few new kids in today. Maybe that'll help ease them over for a little bit, and then we actually go Saturday to Fern Creek to scrimmage. So I wanted to get in scrimmage early and find out where we are and what we need to do, and that'll give us a couple more weeks to work on some stuff.
How many scrimmages do you have?
We go to Fern Creek Saturday, and then we go the 27th, I think, to Campbellsville.
Yep. Is there anything else about this particular upcoming season you want folks to know about?
Just come out and support them. I think you'd be excited. I know last year's crowds, were kind of bad because of COVID and everything. They were limited, but these kids love to play, and they love to play together, and they love to compete, and a lot of upside to the future here. So we're pretty excited about it. So come out and support them, and just watch them play. It's going to be fun, I think. Yeah.
All right, well, that's Coach Blake Button, the Caverna Colonels head basketball coach, here to talk about his team. This is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, we're going to start off with the Glasgow Scotties game against Hart County. I think the biggest thing out of the game is, right now Glasgow's just playing kind of a game of attrition when it comes to injuries and whatnot. They're week in and week out, they're just trying to figure out how many guys they're going to be able to keep on the field. They may have lost another guy on Friday night, but they may have, I think, three of the five who didn't play this past Friday are going to be able to play this Friday, from what I was told on Friday. So that's Jaden Wyrock and Asa Jones. But they may have, I think Corbin Wells got injured in the game against Hart County. They did, John Carter Myers got to play quarterback some. They ended up winning the game handily before it was all said and done. They did all the things that they had to do to win the game. And they're just kind of the walking wounded as they get ready to host Taylor County this Friday night, and that's not a position they want to be in.
No, it is what it is. It's that's from a coaching perspective, that's your greatest fear is to want to peak at the right time.
Yeah.
Want to have your players playing at your best, but injuries occur at the wrong time.
Right.
And that's kind of what's happened with Glasgow. Now they're still winning.
Yeah.
But it's, as we said last week, it's hard to overcome losses at key spots, and not just losses at key spots, numerous losses, and it just remains to be seen how many. A, if they can come back, and B, if they can come back, how effective they are. Because when you don't play, you're not practicing either.
Right.
So, and the Taylor County is a much better team than Hart County.
Yeah.
But Glasgow, they still won. John Carter Myers, as you mentioned, he threw 2 touchdown passes. Stockton again, 2 more touchdowns, carrying most of the load on offense, running the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So they still handily beat Hart. But they're going to have to play real well to beat Taylor.
Well, and the biggest thing for them, I think, on the injury side is the loss of these guys on the defensive side of the ball, because they are able to find guys who can kind of fill the gaps. They've asked Andrew Phillips to step up and run some things differently,
right,
and he's had good games. Gavin Neal came in. I think he's a sophomore. He had some big runs. Justin Perry's a junior. He got a touchdown in the game. They're finding ways to piece together the offense, basically also, meanwhile, riding on the back of Kieran Stockton to set everything up off of him for the most part. John Carter Myers threw the ball well, hit Javon Clark on a beautiful touchdown pass. Easton Jesse's still getting in there. I thought he struggled a little bit on Friday, but that I guess that's going to happen sometimes. But for the most part, the big problem is trying to continue to fill the gaps on the defensive side when you lose guys like Jay Long at safety / cornerback, Hunter Scott, in the secondary. And now you're starting to ask some of these younger guys to step up on the defensive side and recognize things and not fall for fakes. And when you're playing somebody like Taylor County, that's the part that's going to be hard on them.
And Taylor does not throw it well.
No.
But they have a good overall offensive, they're good on offense. It's primarily through, on the ground. They don't throw it a lot. When they do throw it, they try to hit a big splash play.
Yeah.
So,
and they'll run a whole bunch of gimmick stuff,
which is
the part that they usually get over on.
So you have to be disciplined.
Yep.
The good news is I don't know how effective gimmicks work when you see the team as much as they see each other.
Well, and we were both surprised by how many gimmick plays they ran the first meeting between these two teams. That surprised me.
Me too. I normally would not want to show my hand against my opponent if I know I'm going to play them again.
Yeah.
Especially in the tournament.
Yeah.
So that surprises me.
Yeah. It'll be a good game, 7 o'clock Friday night at Glasgow High School. The upside is Glasgow's got that home. Basically Glasgow's in a position, the way it will work if they beat Taylor County, then the 1 through 4 RPIs, 1 through 4 being the top side of the bracket,
they stay.
Will line up. And they will probably wind up hosting Bardstown if they were to win their game on Friday.
Be a tough one.
That'll also be, Bardstown.
And listen, this is not as good of Taylor County team as Taylor has produced the last couple of years.
Yeah.
This is almost a rebuilding year for Taylor.
This team is a bunch of freshmen and sophomores.
And if Glasgow was at full strength, I would have no doubt that Glasgow would win this game.
Yeah.
But they're not at full strength. And Taylor, though young and not as good, are still good enough to beat a wounded Glasgow.
Yeah. Yeah, I still think you would have to say Glasgow would be the favorite team.
They are.
It's at home going into the game.
No question.
But it is definitely going to be a tough game.
Yes, it will be.
And especially when you factor in the injuries.
I agree.
Meanwhile, the Barren County Trojans season came to an end at Central Hardin on Friday night. I'm going to guess Coach Muse and especially his seniors are probably disappointed in how this season finished off. They really just didn't play well in their last couple of games.
Last three.
Well, last three, true.
Yeah, Meade, Allen, and Central.
Yeah.
Just did not play well. I mean, just had gobs of trouble moving the ball consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Turnovers, just I've never seen a team make more turnovers that led to touchdowns for the team than we did this year.
Yeah.
I mean, even Friday against Central Hardin, there was a fumble return for a touchdown. I think it's like 4 straight games that there's been turnovers that directly led to a touchdown, and that's just hard to overcome, especially when you struggle offensively.
Yeah.
Now, if Barren is putting up 30, 35 points, then oftentimes you can overcome those mistakes. But you can't overcome those mistakes when you're having trouble scoring or even picking up routine first downs. So, I think it was disappointing, and I feel bad for some of the seniors, and that Jamison Bowie, who got knocked out like the 4th game of the year.
Yeah.
It was a big loss, and I will, a couple of things from Friday. I do want to give credit to some of our defense. Trig Carver had a really good game, and Trig's is the other linebacker with Ryan Shirley, and had both of those kids in class, Trig and Ryan, great kids.
Yeah.
Trig had 14 tackles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ryan Shirley came back from an ankle injury, and he's been getting that 10, 12 tackles. He only had 6, but he was kind of hobbling around.
Yeah.
And Carmelo Francis had a good game, too. He had 8 tackles in the senior. So, I thought those guys, laid it out there. But, it's tough. And Barren loses some effective players. I mean, Drew Fisher. I mean, Gage Allen.
Is it Jackson Arms? Is he a senior as well?
No, he's a junior.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah, and Tyler Wilson, he was the second leading receiver on the team. So some big losses, but a season that was promising.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the win against Central Hardin, to kind of finish the way we did, it was disappointing. And this was a year, too, that set up pretty well for Barren because I didn't think the district was overly strong.
Yeah, there wasn't it wasn't a dominant team in the district.
And so this was, I just envisioned this is the type of district when the teams are kind of like they are, kind of bunched up. This is the type of district that you can win because North Hardin's been dominant the last few years. They've been top 10 in the state.
Yeah,
and just too much talent, too many Division I players, and that's not the case this year. And so it's disappointing that it ended that way.
I did feel like in the early part of the season and through the mid part of the season, I felt like I saw that Coach Muse and his coaching staff and the seniors were kind of laying the groundwork for a brighter future maybe for the program. And I say that also because, Coach Muse has dedicated 12 years of his career
despite
to this.
how it ended, I think he did a great job.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with Coach Muse. I know he was the interim. Hope he gets ahead. I don't know how that's going to work, but I thought he did a great job.
Yeah.
The team. It's the third coach in about
5 years.
Third coach this year.
That's true.
Yeah,
the third coach in a year.
That's right, because Coach Arnett left in the middle of spring practice.
Yeah.
And then Coach Pierce came and then left before school was over.
Uh-huh.
And then Tommy. So that's a tough adjustment, and I thought the kids played hard for him.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were very disciplined. How many times have I said in here, very few personal fouls, very few unnecessary roughness and unsportsmanlike conduct. You just didn't see that. So that tells me that's coaching and that's discipline, and that's you're respecting your coaches when you behave that way.
And even outside of those particular kind of fouls, for most of the games this season, they didn't even have many of those brain dead
they were
penalties, offsides, holdings.
Had that one big penalty game against North Hardin.
Yeah,
North Hardin had 16, we had 10 or 11, and one had a couple unsportsmanlike at the end of the Allen game.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I was proud of how our team acted, and they competed. Just disappointing how it ended at the end. It's I don't have an answer why.
Yeah. I guess it just goes like that sometimes.
Well, sometimes, and I think there was some frustration. When you're having trouble moving the ball and scoring. You know,
Yeah.
it makes it tougher. And then, you know, these weird turnovers that directly led to touchdowns for the team. I think that's probably takes your heart away a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and that's real tough on a defense, too, because, I mean, you're asking the defense to accomplish certain things, but then if you give away a score and the defense is right back out on the field having to, like, deal with, with what they're having to do, then – or not right back out on the field, but, I mean, they when they're back out on the field, they're already in a hole, and you're asking them now to make up for something. And that's always one of those constant conflicts in football at all levels, really. I mean, we always see it at all levels of football, this constant conflict between the offense's job and the defense's job, and when things go haywire one way or the other, it puts the other one behind the 8 ball.
Well, it does, but the only difference is in high school, oftentimes the same kids are playing on both sides.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to point the fingers at the defense or the offense because you're on both sides.
True.
And in Barren, I mean, they did, platoon some, but, they had similar players oftentimes on both sides.
Real quick, let's talk about another football team, the Metcalf County Hornets, because I think it was 3 weeks ago we mentioned that they were going to be up against it when they were playing Greene County and that they would have been the favorites, that their quarterback was there.
Yeah.
They ended up winning that game. The next week they went up to Kentucky Country Day and beat the number 2 1A team handily. They won handily in the first round of the playoffs. They get to host Greene County this Friday. At the beginning of the year when Barren went and played over there, we talked about the fact that a lot of people over at Metcalf County had this particular team circled as one that could do a lot of damage, especially with their quarterback there. Apparently, LJ and his guys, LJ Harbison, the coach, and his coaching staff, they've managed to figure out how to keep winning despite the loss of their quarterback.
LJ will not get voted statewide as Coach of the Year, but he should be under consideration.
I would agree.
It's not very well known, and Metcalf would have to go a long way for all that to happen, but he's done a tremendous job. From the first time I saw him play Barren to open up, and they got 30 kids on the team, but man, they play hard. They're well disciplined, and I thought after watching them play Barren that I saw a team that's going to win a lot of games.
Yeah.
What shocks me is how well they've continued when they lost their quarterback, who was a heck of a player. Peyton Dial was really good.
Yeah.
Played offense and defense, and they have. I don't know if they're as good without him. I haven't seen them play, but they've kept going.
Yeah.
And LJ's done. And one of the things that at some of your smaller schools is that depth is not something that's convenient.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
You may have 30 guys on the roster, but you may only have 15 who can really play.
That's exactly right. And to continue on, it gives them a lot of credit to the coaching staff over there and to Metcalf. And, of course, they host Greene again, and that was a close game last time. I think it was 28-26, something like that. So it could probably go either way.
Yeah.
It could. Greene is very, 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 run dominated. I mean, they don't throw it 5 times a game. Mm-hmm. So, and I do think they turned the ball over a little some the first time. So, I could see it flipping, but I could easily see Metcalf winning.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to evaluate the win over Kentucky Country Day, but when you get that top level at all these classes, maybe 6A the exception, just the very top because of the teams you're talking about there. But a lot of times there's not a whole lot of separation, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, these top teams in those areas. So I thought that was a pretty impressive win up there at their place.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that was another one that whenever they were going to play them, I'm like, well, it doesn't matter for anything. I mean, Metcalf doesn't have to go there and win that game. Kentucky Country Day was in a position where they were trying to still get some RPI points, I think, in order to set up how they were going to be going in their playoff situation. So it probably meant more to them in that circumstance because technically they were going to get that bump of playing the larger school, the joke that is.
It is.
But, so it was. I thought that was part of the win was impressive as well because the game didn't really matter to Metcalf in terms of what their plans were.
Well, it just shows that Metcalf's good, which we thought all along.
Yep. And then a couple of other games coming this Friday when we got the South Warren Bowling Green rematch. I still think South Warren's just absolutely the team to beat. Greenwood gave Bowling Green a good game. They did. I think it was 24-10, which is the closest they've been in a while.
I mean, it's a typical first round of the playoffs. Very, very, very few competitive games. Mm-hmm. Mainly you hate to say this, but I hadn't done enough research. I just glanced, but probably more running clocks. It's probably 50-50.
Yeah.
About half the games are probably running clocks, just not competitive.
Well, and this in-district thing has made no difference in terms of how those first-round games go for the most part.
No, not on the first one. No, absolutely. Yeah. It's we've said all along, the Kentucky high school playoffs, football is different. I mean, it's not like basketball, or everybody wants it to be basketball, but still don't think everybody should make the playoffs. It's a different deal. So, not a lot of competitive games.
Yep.
But this week the games will be more competitive. Bowling Green, South Warren will be competitive. Barren, Glasgow, Taylor will be competitive.
Yeah, there should be a lot of good games this coming Friday.
Yeah, Franklin and Allen should be competitive.
Oh, yeah. All right, it's the Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. When we come back, we'll have Glasgow Scotties basketball coach James Willett with us.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
All right, we're back here on the Brown Sports Bag. We have James Willett, another James, in here with us to talk about the Glasgow Scotties basketball team. Season gets going in 3 weeks. I printed out your stuff here from online.
Yeah.
And I noticed, on the roster, generally speaking, and these things generally are lagging a little bit because you still got football players come back and all that. But I know it says Brendan Short's on here, but I understand he's not going to play this year. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's not going to be able to medically play for us, unfortunately. He had those that maybe follow his family on Facebook and social media. He had a pretty rough weightlifting accident in June of 2020 during the pandemic, and we got him back, and he's just taken some shots to the head, and it's just it's tough luck. That's the best way to put it for him. And he's part of us, in spirit, but he's not going to be able to be with us physically this year.
Right. And then I think Andrew Phillips has planned on playing. He's playing football again right now.
Yes.
But he played with you guys this summer.
He played with us this summer and got some great minutes and great opportunities. And I've always had a wonderful relationship with Andrew, and as a his coach and a teacher, and he just has had some other things come up where he couldn't play, but he really wants to play and commit to these guys and commit to this program this year, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, and he's a senior, so he's stepping in as a senior, and Brendan Short was a senior as well. So
right.
Swapping out there.
Yeah.
Seniors probably different kind of playing styles as players.
Yeah, a little different. Brendan was he really stretched the floor for us and shot it well, but Andrew is a tough on-ball defender and gives us some toughness. He's a good kid. Can make a few plays with the ball in his hands.
Mm-hmm. So let's start here. I know that last season was just a wild finish for you guys in that district tournament. I hate to bring that up.
Yeah, do you want to talk about football or anything? Or like the NFL is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That would be nice. John and I are probably going to discuss that if you want to stick around.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, we can talk about fantasy football or whatever else that you want to.
How's your fantasy football going this year?
About as expected.
Okay.
My fantasy football team actually combined for 2 touchdowns yesterday.
Oh.
All of them combined.
All right, we won't talk about that anymore. But I guess my thing is from that, the loss you guys suffered in that district tournament, with the number of seniors that you have coming back.
Right.
What kind of conversations did you guys have in the summer and then I guess even immediately thereafter?
Mm-hmm. And we didn't really start the summer playing that well, honestly. We finished the summer playing well, and that's kind of been the message, to try to finish things. If one thing that game last year over at Barren County taught us is that when we're playing well, how good can we be? Mm-hmm. And when we don't, how bad things can get and how fast that can happen, and how poorly I did in the last 5.5 minutes of that game. It's just one of those situations where we were geared up so. I put them in 5th gear and kept it there. And when we tried to slow down, or if we just didn't do it, we didn't respond. And that's me. I said that all throughout the summer, said it all throughout the season. But the thing about it is, and one thing I tell them all the time, that loss will stay with me forever. That's tattooed, that's stained on me. The thing about these guys, except for Ethan Harlow, who graduated, of course, but for everyone else, they have a chance to get redemption. They have a chance to redeem themselves and just wash that away. But that's going to be on them. It's going to, it's a mental focus thing as well. Can't let it get in their head. We just got to push forward and move forward. I'll learn from it, but they have an opportunity to, get redemption for themselves. And that's the one thing they need to own this season themselves. It's their senior year. It's the end of their story, and they had another chapter to go, so they need to make the most of it.
Yeah, because you have 7 seniors, is that right?
Yeah, we'll have 7 this year.
How do you think they've taken on – I mean, that's a bunch of seniors on a basketball team, but how do you think they've taken on the leadership and the ownership of this season so far?
Yeah, it's something that we're working on every single day. It's when they were freshmen and sophomores, they had that big senior class from from 2020. That was Nick and Jaden and Bo and Haney, and that whole entire outfit that came through. They were sophomores and watching them, and as freshmen watching them. Then it was juniors and it was their turn, and the inexperience, it crept. We lost a lot of close games last year. It can be inexperience on the varsity floor. It could be coaching. It can be a lot of different things. But now it's time. There's got to be some accountability and ownership, and it's something that we're learning every single day. We've got a good turnout in the gym right now while we wait for our football players.
Yeah,
we've had opportunities to do a lot of not past the summer, but in July, and then in August, whenever school started back up, to do that fall conditioning. And we've had a big core of guys in there, and it's a constant preaching point for me and the other coaches.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned that you have 7 seniors, but I mean, basically, you have a team that is seniors and juniors dominated once again. Ironically enough. How do you think that they're looking at the season? I mean, what kind of goals have they put upon themselves? Because I imagine when you have a group of veteran players, you don't have to do a lot of the goal setting and that kind of stuff. I imagine they may take charge of that.
Yeah, they do, and they have. Those are conversations that we've had at the beginning of the year after tryouts. We take a week and talk with the one by one individually, the upperclassmen, and like some evaluations that we do where we think they are, what their goals are going to be. And all of them have had similar goals. And it's easy to say what your goals are, but it's another thing to really put in the work and the effort to reach them. And so they've spoken their goals, and now they're in the process of learning what it takes to work through there and taking criticism. And practices can get tough sometimes now. And and I always have that in my hip pocket about how things can finish if
True.
But it's just one of those things. You don't want to dwell on it, but you also want to use it just enough for it to be a motivating factor.
It's the old forgive but don't forget kind of situation.
Absolutely, and it's a situation for them to really, I hope, stay focused and motivated all year.
Yeah.
Because they have big goals, meeting with them, they all have similar big goals.
What are those goals that they have?
Well, the first thing that they want to do, I guess it's a badge of honor to get 20 wins.
Yeah. And
looking at our schedule, I'm telling them, that's a great goal, because if you can get 20 wins in this region, in this district, then you're going to be a pretty good basketball team. Then it was to, win district. And that's a heck of a goal too, because our district is always tough, and I think we got maybe the best team in the region, just across town, and our cross-town rival over here in our district. So, but it's good to have those goals, because if you don't have goals that are hard to achieve, then what are you really doing? So it's good for them to be motivated like that, I believe.
You mentioned your district, and you mentioned the crosstown team, Barren County Trojans there.
Sure.
I imagine that they also have high expectations. We'll hear from Warren, of course, on this show, because, basically they did pretty well last year. They lost their best player to a knee injury.
Right.
And so when you see that, how do you think the district stacks up? Because meanwhile, Allen County lost quality players.
Yes.
And Monroe, I think, is probably still in a rebounding. So how do you think that district stacks up?
Well, I think Barren County is the team to beat for sure. Their size is going to be just incredible for a high school basketball team, and they're not just tall. Those guys can play. They're skilled. They're athletic, and they've got seniors that want to go out as a whole lot more than probably district champs. I'm sure their goals are set real high as well, and they have the team to be able to do that. I think Allen County is going to be searching for some guard play. When you lose Mason Shirley and others, you're going to have to find some way to replace that. And I know Coach Napier over there really well, and he's got his first crack at it. I'm kind of looking forward to see what he's going to put out on the floor. I think he's got some. I think the Coffee kid's a real skilled player for them, and tall as well. That's another kid with some size that can step out and shoot some. So he's got some unique pieces over there too. And I know a lot of people may be overlooking Monroe, but they've got guards that can score a little bit. John Owen Harlan, and then the little Arnott kid. They can shoot and score. And if you've got guards that can score in high school, you've got a chance. You've got more than a puncher's chance, I think. So I don't think any of those games are going to be easy for us. Every game is its own game for us, and that's coach speak, but that's kind of what you got to do.
Right. I would guess last year it seemed like the seeding in the district tournament was going to be a very important point, just because, as you mentioned, Allen County had Mason Shirley. You guys had a good team. Barren had a good team.
Yeah.
It would seem that maybe – do you think that's as important this year in terms of how you perform during the regular season in your district games? I
don't know. I always like to stay away from the home team, which I haven't been able to do very well. So,
where is it this year?
It's at Glasgow this year.
Oh, well, you can stay away from the home team.
Right. Isn't it Glasgow? Yeah, it is. I had to think about it. But yeah, it is. It's our turn again. And I know the last time it was our place, I think I lost 5 years off of my life in that triple overtime game in the first round. So, yeah, the first round, I've been in some weird ones. I'm telling you. I have been in some weird first-round games.
You had a fantastic one when you were at Allen over at Monroe.
Yes. Oh, my gosh, yeah. Let's relive all of them right now, James. Let's just go ahead and make me go. All right, yeah. I won't need any coffee for the rest of the month. I'll be awake, sleepless, all these things. But, no, it's just it's a unique district. Everybody knows each other. So we've either played against each other, played on the same team. I played, with Ashley. We were teammates. I've played against Warren. I've coached Casey. We all have these unique relationships, and we know each other's teams. We know each other's strengths and weaknesses as coaches, and it's just our teams. We know our teams real well. So it's nothing to give me whenever you get to the postseason for sure.
Well, and you mentioned getting 20 wins with the schedule that you had would be quite an accomplishment. Well, you opened with Warren Central at home and then played Bowling Green after that.
Yeah, that's week 2. Week 1, for some reason, is not on here. We opened with Logan at Logan County, and then Russell County comes to us on that Friday. And then beginning on the 6th. Either, are they? Not to go to Logan County. It's a long trip. I know they're missing – they graduated a bunch of folks.
Yeah.
Or 2 years ago, and then they're still kind of in a little bit of a rebuilding phase. And I know Reister is at Russellville now, Anthony Woodard. So I don't know much about what they're going to have returning. I know they had a pretty good sophomore, junior class. They shot the ball pretty well against us, if I recall correctly. I'll go back and check some of that video out. And then, with Russell County coming in, they're kind of in a phase where they're going through a new coach, and they've got some people, newer faces and newer people. We'll see. It's one of those situations where you just kind of go in, worry about yourself, and hope good things happen, and then jump in. You can't overlook anybody, and then go in and play Warren Central and Bowling Green.
Yeah. And then I'm guessing there are more games missing on this schedule from online, because it says that your next game after the Bowling Green game on the 9th is the 14th against Monroe at home. District game. Is that right? I
believe so. I don't have my own schedule in front of me, but I believe that would be right. There might be a game that Saturday, actually. Okay. I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah, we'll clean all this up, and we'll put the schedules on our website so we can track them down as well.
I'm worried about the Russellville scrimmage, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow.
That'll be an interesting scrimmage.
It will be. We go over there 2 weeks from tomorrow, and then after Thanksgiving, we turn around and host Whitesville Trinity. We lost a home scrimmage, and to who was it? We lost to Thomas Nelson. They were supposed to come to us on the 20th, and now it's we just had to scramble and find somebody else. And they're coming over.
Gotcha. Let's talk a little bit about your pre-Christmas tournament that you guys are going to be playing at Edmonson County and Rafferty's Cave Lane Classic.
Sure.
What do you expect from a pre-Christmas tournament? Because you're not traveling for that one. That one's a drive to it.
Right. Just honestly, we're looking for games. We had something else that was going to be scheduled, and it got canceled. And so we decided to go. We wanted to go someplace close because the other place that we were going was also going to be kind of a close place where we wouldn't have to stay all night and worry about COVID protocols and things like that. That have since been, kind of lifted somewhat. But you kind of have to make your schedule in advance. And we were scrambling and looking for some games there before Christmas in Edmonson County. And Coach Johnson over there reached out, and we're thankful for him letting us into that. And it's always a good tournament to be in.
Yeah. And then you guys are playing Campbellsville on the 28th after Christmas.
That's actually a tournament as well.
Okay.
And it's pretty good traditional teams up there. Louisville Butler, I think Marshall County is in one of the brackets. Who else? Scott County, is above in the bracket above us up there. So some pretty strong traditional teams in that tournament as well. And of course, Campbellsville has us playing them in the first round, so that lets you know what they think about us and everybody else in that tournament. So we know that we got some work to do when we get up there.
Whenever you were making out this schedule, knowing you're going to have this group of seniors, were you trying to find a more challenging schedule? Is that what you were working toward?
I was just trying to find a way to get us up to right at 30 games with the All-A tournament. I'm telling you, when you're scheduling around the All-A tournament, you're playing a lot of what-if games, and you're trying to double schedule, and I always like to cap it at about 28 games, depending on what we do in All-A, and then have a few of those conditional games where if you do advance and get up into the state tournament or deep into the regional tournament, you might have to go back and talk to a coach and maybe upset them a little bit by having to cancel a game in January, which is not a great time to be able to cancel unless it's for snow or something. But
right.
That's just the way it goes. Basketball is sometimes fly by the seat of your pants there in January.
Yeah, although this year hopefully is a lot less fly by your seat of the pants than last year.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it'll be a lot more normalcy, we hope.
Yeah. Is there anything else about your team or this season you'd like people to know?
Yeah, just our guys are. We got some really good players. You got Sam Bowling coming back. Ashton Serwinski's had an injury, and he's coming back from injury. And then, of course, Jackson Poland had that wonderful game for us and came on strong at the end of the year. We look for those three guys to give a lot of production. I hate to just start naming names because I'll forget somebody. You got John Carter Myers coming, Andrew Phillips. Clay Pippen, Coach Pippen's son, is a junior, and he gives us a little.
He got more effective as the year went along.
And he did. We've got good kids, kids that you kind of enjoy being around, and they're seniors, and they're just time for them to take care of some business, and you give them enough, but be ready to pull back when you need to. But they're a fun group to coach. They play fast, and I'm not gonna pull back on them too much. But I'm just gonna kind of let them go to the best of their abilities.
A couple of more kids real quick. One's still with football, Javon Clark. You ended up playing with him quite a bit last year.
Sure,
as a sophomore. And then I think Trey Brown came on. He's a senior. I thought he played real well for you late in the season as well. Yeah,
Trey's a good rebounder for us and active. And Javon, he really started the year gaining confidence and shot the ball well. He kind of went cold and then got hot again, and then he went cold in that last game. So, as a sophomore, he was getting out on the floor and getting some good experience. As a junior, he's gotten a little bit taller, a little bit bigger. He gives me some length, but he's really a guard. He's not a beat and bang guy in the post, but he's about 6'2.5", 6'3", length. And football is put some muscle on him. He's he's a tough kid too.
Yeah. All right, that's Coach James Willett, Glasgow Scotties basketball coach, here talking to us about his team and the upcoming season. This is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
All right, John, we're back. I want to thank Coach Blake Button, Caverna Colonels, for coming by, and Coach James Willett with the Glasgow Scotties for coming by. I especially want to thank Coach Willett that had to be a tough conversation talking about the end of last season. We kind of joked about, his bad luck in certain circumstances. He likes to equate that to his fantasy football. But
it's not easy. That's one of the hardest losses you'll ever see. But like I said at the time, it happens at every level.
Yeah.
Not just high school. It happens college, pro. It happens with coaches making $10 million a year. Sometimes when that momentum changes, it changes. They're hard to stop no matter what you do. So
Yeah, as I recall, you told a story about a tough loss I think you guys had maybe in the region tournament.
Yeah, I lost regional finals where we had 7-point lead with 2.5 minutes to go. And I also have come back in the region down that way, came back from 25 down. So, I mean, this stuff, it swings and hard to change momentum.
I think I know it's tough on the people at the time and that kind of stuff, but it is one of the reasons I think we love sports because just anything can happen.
The drama, the emotion, yep.
Speaking of drama and emotion, I think probably 4 weeks ago we were discussing as Kentucky was getting ready to play Georgia. They were real close to being, having that shot to play in that SEC championship game. 4 weeks has made just a massive difference. Mostly it seems like because the thing that that was their best thing, their defense, has just been unable to stop people the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they've lost 3 straights. No disgrace losing to Georgia. No disgrace losing to Mississippi State. The way they lost to Mississippi State wasn't good.
Yeah.
And then the Tennessee was, you're talking about a strange one. I mean, get beat 48, 45 or 48, whatever. But, Kentucky had 600 yards of offense. And they ran 99 plays.
How do you?
They had the ball almost 80% of the time and lose one of the more incredible losses. It's hard to envision how you lose that way other than defensively. You give up monster plays, you give up special team plays, and the one bad offensive play that they made was returned for a touchdown.
Yeah.
So just a weird way that Tennessee beats Kentucky, but. In fairness, Tennessee normally beats Kentucky, but this was knocks them out of the top 25 and probably squelches any hope of a quality bowl. They still go to the bowl, and they still some. They're
back in that Music City territory.
And they still have some, but they've got to. Obviously, they got Vanderbilt left. They should beat Vanderbilt. They should, Louisville. They'll probably beat Louisville. Though Louisville's competitive, but Louisville can't finish games.
Yeah.
But the one strength, and I know that what's got to be killing Coach Stoops is his one thing that he's been so strong at has been defensive. And he's a defensive coach.
Yeah.
His defense just completely collapsed.
Yeah, and you mentioned Louisville not being able to finish games. They ended up losing to Clemson basically because they could not figure out how to get a touchdown. I
think in their last 4 losses, they have led in the fourth quarter of all of them. And I think I'm right. I don't think Louisville has scored a touchdown. Maybe it's not a point. I don't think they've scored a touchdown in any of those losses in the last, or been shut out in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So they're losing leads and they can't score.
Yeah.
And this time against Clemson, this is a very average Clemson team. And Louisville again led, and then they had a shot to win it at the end. They had 1st and goal from the 2 with 40 seconds to go and couldn't score.
Yeah.
And it just seems like to me their quarterback, Cunningham, is a good player, but he tries to do too much. He tried to make every play has to be a splash, great play, and he was good, but sometimes when everybody on the defense knows you're going to run it, no matter what. He's not Lamar Jackson good. He's good, and it's just it's tough when you lose leads consistently.
Yeah, and then WKU they did everything they were supposed to do against Middle Tennessee offensively. The defense I thought played well again. I know they give up points, but they force turnovers and get sacks, and they do disruptive things. It may not show up when you look at the yards gained and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they put outside of the first game they played in Conference USA, they have just put a stomping on everybody. They've been offensively tremendous, and I don't know if it says what it says about the Conference USA, but Western looks like a dominant team in Conference USA outside of, is it Texas San Antonio?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Who's still undefeated and in the top 25 now.
That's correct.
And that game, that loss.
That was after Michigan State, after Indiana, after our 3 consecutive big games, to be honest with you, and they probably played them at the wrong time.
Right. Yeah, it would be interesting to see if they had a chance to play again how it would go.
Right.
Because it does look like the Hilltoppers have rectified some of the situations they had, and most of that may have been not physical but actually mental, as you mentioned, because of the tough schedule they played before they got to that game. They've done a lot better job of not giving up just like the bad plays and that kind of stuff defensively. So they've come back around. They look like the team we thought they should look like. Their quarterback Bailey Zapp he's just outstanding.
He'll get a shot next year in the pros.
Yeah. And speaking of the pros, unfortunately, the guy who was the darling of the world, Mike White, got to play.
It's tough for him. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, he had that big game against Cincinnati and came back on that Thursday at Indianapolis
and looked good until he got hurt.
Hurt his hand in the first quarter. And, I mean, they'd already scored one, 7-7 and went out. And then
that touchdown pass he threw on that score was an outstanding throw.
Yeah, it's just tough to, couldn't finish the half or game because of his hand, so it wasn't because of his performance. Hope he gets another chance.
Yeah, me too. I mean, and look, he looked good enough in that first quarter before the injury that he looked like he was going to be their quarterback.
Yep,
might as well.
Well, I mean, he's going, regardless of what happens. I don't know if he'll get a real shot with the Jets because of the Jets invested in Zach Wilson.
Yeah,
but he's going to get a chance somewhere.
Yeah, he certainly padded his resume in such a way that whenever the season's over with, somebody's going to go, let's bring him in.
That's correct.
Meanwhile, the NFL just has gone a little bit haywire, and mostly I would say because of injuries. But at the same time, one of the things that's happening is the Titans lose Derrick Henry. They play actually probably their best defensive game of the season. I know they held the Chiefs to 3 points, but I'm beginning to believe maybe that had more to do with the Chiefs' offense being.
Tennessee beat the Rams.
Yeah, they beat the Rams. That's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I mean, they beat a good team without Derrick Henry.
Right, they sure did.
And I thought their defense probably played better in that game than it actually did against the Chiefs.
I think Tennessee's a top 5 team in the league. I mean, they've on consecutive weeks they've beaten Buffalo, Kansas City, at Indianapolis, and now at the Rams.
Yeah,
I mean they've beaten some quality teams. I mean, they're proven they're physical and their defense has gotten better and their quarterback's playing well.
Yeah,
but it was a strange day yesterday. I mean, Dallas got blown out at home to Denver.
Yeah,
Dallas has no injuries.
Yeah,
none, and the quarterback was terrible. And I mean, they were down 30-0.
Yeah.
Jacksonville beats Buffalo. Buffalo has no injuries.
Yeah, they scored all of 6 points in that game.
9-6.
Yeah,
gets beat. I mean they were, I think, 16.5-point underdog Jacksonville, and they come out of nowhere and win. I mean, strange.
Yeah.
Atlanta beats New Orleans.
Yeah.
Of course, New Orleans has lost their quarterback for the rest of the year, but that's a mini upset, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
So there was.
Well, I guess it especially was considering what happened. I mean, they blew a lead like they had, going back when they were Super Bowl-sized lead to the Saints, and then managed to win the game on a field goal at the end. So that's, I guess, the shocking part of it. Usually when a team collapses like that, it's all over with, but it didn't work out that way.
No, it was some strange games.
Yeah, and then the Browns absolutely
blew out
the Bengals, was it?
Yeah, maybe there is something to that Odell Beckham, that there's there's something called chemistry.
There is.
And I don't think there's any doubt that the quarterback Baker Mayfield plays better without him. I don't know if there's subtle pressure. There's presence on teams where there's personalities where maybe he feels subtle pressure to force it to him, because I don't know what their record is without Beckham, but it is amazingly better, and he's an amazingly better quarterback where he spreads the wealth and so forth, and I think they cut Beckham today.
Well, and I kind of wonder if what doesn't happen with them sometimes is when they had Odell Beckham, they felt the need to try to throw the ball to Odell Beckham.
They did, yeah.
But they're better just running the football and working off of that. I mean, that's what has worked for them for the last 3 years.
That's what I meant. Yeah, I mean, there's sometimes it's chemistry.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. may work on some other team. He just didn't work for the Browns.
We'll see.
It was an interesting day, and it's going to be. I think, when they lost Kyler Murray, the Cardinals still won the game.
Blew out San Francisco.
Yeah, so it's been a fascinating NFL season so far. This is Brown Sports Bag, brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.